It's terrifying how quickly things can spiral out of control online. A reputation that you've spent years, maybe even decades building, can be absolutely torn to shreds in just a matter of hours. When some lie, some false stories start spreading, it feels like you're completely helpless, right? But you're not. And today, we're going to talk about exactly how you can fight back against online harassment and defamation. So let's just think about that for a second. How fast can a lie really destroy a life? In the time it takes you to go to bed and wake up the next morning, a single false post can just catch fire and cause damage that feels impossible to fix. Yeah, less than 24 hours. That's all it took for one of our clients, a tattoo artist we'll call Martin, to watch his entire world get turned upside down. His story is, well, it's a tough one, but it's a perfect example of just how devastating these attacks can be, and more importantly, how you can start to regain control. Okay, so let's get into Martin's story. He was a really well-respected tattoo artist. In his early 30s, he had this amazing, thriving studio, a fantastic reputation that he built completely on his own talent. And he used Instagram to show off his work and connect with his clients. He was doing everything right. And this timeline here, it really shows just how fast this digital wildfire spread. It all started with just one single false post from a former client. Within 12 hours, 12 screenshots of that post were absolutely everywhere. The tattoo community, it's a really tight-knit world, so that thing spread like crazy. And get this, by the 24-hour mark, the original post was deleted, but it didn't matter. Not at all. The damage was already done. In 1 week, his business was in ruins. The things people were saying were just awful. People who had never met him, who knew absolutely nothing about his life, were publicly, online, calling him a predator. This wasn't just, a bad review. This was a complete character assassination, and it was being boosted by influencers shared in local Facebook groups by complete strangers. And the fallout, it wasn't just a bunch of mean comments online. Oh no. The impact was devastatingly real. His bookings just stopped overnight. His staff, worried about their own reputations, they quit. He had to close down the studio he poured his heart and soul into. And it didn't even stop there. The mob came for his family. His wife started getting these disgusting, harassing messages, and Martin himself got direct threats. He was genuinely afraid for his family's safety. So Martin did what any of us would do. He went to the police. And while they were sympathetic, they basically said their hands were tied. They agreed it sounded like harassment, but they explained they have very little power to make these giant social media companies take content down or reveal who's behind an anonymous account. And this is a huge, incredibly frustrating problem for so many people. It was at this point, feeling totally helpless, that he finally came to us for legal help. And this is the point in the story where things start to shift. This is where we go from despair to empowerment. Because when just asking people to stop doesn't work, the law gives you some seriously powerful tools to fight back. What Martin needed was a clear, targeted legal strategy to stop the attack and help him reclaim his life. Now, it's really important to understand this. Martin wasn't just facing one problem. He was fighting a war on two fronts. First, you had defamation. These were the outright lies that were destroying his professional reputation. But then you also had harassment, the threatening messages, the constant attacks that were causing him and his family real fear and distress. To actually fix this, we had to tackle both. So what does harassment actually mean legally here in the UK? Well, it's what's called a course of conduct. That basically means it's not just a single one-off nasty comment. It's repeated, unwanted contact, a pattern of behavior that makes you feel alarmed or distressed. All those threatening messages Martin was getting, that nonstop flood of hate, yeah, that fits the legal definition perfectly. And I bet I know what you're thinking. The person who started this whole mess deleted the original post, right? So does that mean they just get away with it? Is it all over? Absolutely not. And this is so important to understand. Under UK law, the legal harm is done the second that false statement is published and seen by at least one other person. The damage is done in that instant. Deleting it later doesn't undo the harm, and it for sure doesn't erase their legal responsibility for it. Okay, so with that in mind, what's the actual plan? This isn't about launching some huge, messy, years-long court battle. It's about a swift, methodical, and really firm legal intervention that's designed to shut down the harassment right at the source. So let's break down our approach. It really comes down to 3 clear steps. First, we go on a deep dive for evidence. We gather every single screenshot, every message, every post to build a rock-solid case. Second, we identify the key players. We're not trying to go after every single person who left a comment. We focus on the original source and the people who are most influential in spreading the lie. Finally, we deploy formal legal letters, specifically cease and desist letters that tackle both the defamation and the harassment head-on. And listen, these letters, they're not just a polite, please stop. They are legally powerful documents with real teeth. They demand the immediate removal of all the false content. They demand a signed public retraction of the claims. They demand a legal promise, we call it an undertaking, to never repeat the allegations again. And they come with a very clear warning. Do this, or you could be facing us in court. So, the big question is, did it actually work for Martin? This is the most important part of the whole story. By taking this kind of targeted legal action, Martin was finally able to shift from being the victim to being the one in control of the situation. And the results, honestly, they speak for themselves. 2 of the 3 main people we sent letters to took down all the content immediately. The whole thing just stopped. The wider sharing of the story died down. The new reposts dried up completely. That anonymous account that was pushing so much of the hate, it was deactivated. This gave Martin the space, the breathing room he so desperately needed to start rebuilding his life and his reputation. And this quote from us really gets to the heart of our philosophy here. The law gives you some incredibly powerful tools, like a sledgehammer, but you don't always need to use the sledgehammer. Sometimes a firm, strategic, and really well-judged approach can get you the resolution you need without having to go through a long, expensive court battle. It's about being assertive, but also being smart. So here's what I really want you to take away from all this. If you are going through something like Martin was, if your reputation, your business, or your safety is being attacked online, please, please remember, you do not have to just sit there and tolerate it. There are legal options. The law can be on your side, and with the right approach, you absolutely can regain control.